Welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Scott Kirshner. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. The website's arhq.com. An article on the website Smart Asset said that last year, the median retirement plan balance fell about 15%. And in the comments section, people said, sure, they were down 15%, but did you add in the 9% inflation? The point is, you may think you're doing okay, but when you dive into the numbers, you may find a lot of room for improvement. Guys, can you think of some examples with new and current clients?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have a year like 2022, it's important really to kind of stress test your numbers and make sure that you're still on track and, look at it in a little different context. Obviously, Chaz Price, a certified financial planner that we oftentimes have on the radio show, he talks a lot about the fact of how taxes are going to eat into that as well. So if you have the market down by 15%, you have inflation up by 9%, what if you have taxes higher by 10%? And then, Scott, if you compound that and you think about now throw in a healthcare related expense, I mean, today we've talked a lot about the topic of healthcare expenses. It can really kind of chomp and eat away at the different life savings that you've built up. We were at an event recently that we were talking about Social Security and Medicare. And in fact, for any of you that are listening, if you haven't been to one of our events, we do have a couple of upcoming events. Number one, October 11th, we have our semi-annual economic update at the Hilton, but we also do have quite a few Medicare events. Something, Scott, that you had talked about the last time is when we were at this event, you were sharing a little bit about some of the expenses and how that can eat away. And it's so important to dive deep into the retirement numbers because if you didn't know about some of these things and how expensive healthcare costs, it can kind of wipe out your retirement savings, can't it?
No, there's no question, Nolan. I told the story there and, raised a lot of eyebrows for some of the guests that we had, at the event. I had one particular client that had one medication that they were on, and their out-of-pocket, well, the cost of the medication was $585,000. When I brought this up on the screen in front of them, they about fell out of a chair. And then their portion of that cost was going to be roughly $34,000. Now, with the proper insurance plan, you can, eliminate a good portion of that. But if you don't have the proper plan, that number's coming out of your pocket. The other thing is, a lot of people don't realize or understand that there are out-of-pocket expenses with Medicare to the tune of, it's an 80-20 plan, And if you're not on Medicare, if you're, under 65 and you're on, the marketplace plans, you're going to have upwards to $10,000 in deductibles and out-of-pocket costs. So why should you dive deep, I can't say that, right, into your retirement plan numbers is because those numbers can be totally destroyed by catastrophic claims if you don't have the right plans put in place.
Well, when we look at this, again, whether it's looking at things like how would a stock market decline impact you or how is inflation going to impact you, we use this financial planning tool, and what we can do is kind of put all of these numbers into the plan. And then what we do is we run simulations to look at 2,000 possible different combinations of things like, what if you needed long-term care for the last 2 years of your life? What if you had a higher health care cost? What if inflation was high for a long time? What if the market crashed? What if, tax rates doubled? Those type of things. And by identifying those, it allows you to develop a plan to figure out what are the solutions that you need to put in place today and developing a plan to try to eliminate some of those risks. So as you talk about with the 80-20 plan, there's solutions to that, right? Instead
Absolutely.
of, just paying 20% out of pocket, there's choices that can be made. Even in the situation of what you talked about with somebody that maybe had $36,000 a year of prescription costs, again, knowing how to navigate the plans and the choices that are out there lead you to maybe a lot better individual choices.
Oh, there's no question. And that's exactly why we work together, and that's exactly what we do here is, I mentioned in that event, a lot of people, when they ask me, what do? I never tell them that I'm an insurance agent because really I'm not, I'm an educator. I educate them on the plans that are available. It's just like what you do when you meet with a client and you go through, the fact-finding process. You educate them on the options that they have. A lot of people don't even know. It was staggering to me. I had a show of hands, and there were so many people that didn't really even know what plan they had. And it kind of is the same, with financial planning. I don't know where my money's invested. I don't know what exact plans I have. Unless you actually get into the weeds with all of your plans and working with a guy like yourself or myself, you're leaving yourself in the potential for a disaster.
Yeah, as I talk about, I love being a numbers nerd,
Sure.
and I think as you pointed out the other day, your son just leaves out the numbers part of it,
Yeah.
just calls you a nerd. But
Right.
this is the reason why you should dive deep into your retirement plan. So if last year was a little bit of a concern, obviously 2023, the market, the economy's gotten a little bit better, but inflation is still a big issue. If you're worried about, how do I develop a plan to help protect my life savings from a healthcare cost? What do I do in the event that tax rates go up in the future, which they're currently set to do? Or what do I do in the event that Social Security does what they say they're going to do, which is not be able to pay all the benefits in 10 years from now? That's why we should dive deep into the numbers. So if you haven't had your plan stress test in the last year, as a listener on our show, here at the Retirement Guys Radio Show, we would love to stress test the numbers. We'd love to put your portfolio through that analysis. Worst case scenarios, we tell you everything looks good, but if there's a couple of areas that can be room for improvement, that's what we love to show you. And again, just reach out to the office, give us a call. We'd be happy to stress test your plan and dive deep into your retirement numbers.
As Nolan said there, worst case scenario is you find out you're doing great. It sounds odd, but if there are things that need to be done, changes that need to be made, it's better to find out about it as soon as possible so you can course correct and really tighten up your retirement prospects. But it all starts with having that stress test done. All you need to do to take advantage of this is a way of saying thank you for joining us here on the show. Is give us a call, 419-794-3030. Once again, that's 419-794-3030. You can also reach out on the website, arhq.com.